Have you played Have You Ever? Because have you ever signed up for NewOrleans.Football? If you have access to the show during the live taping, all of our news and analysis, an extra podcast, and so much more. Make sure you are signed up at NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Use the code NOF to save 20% on your first payment. We are coming to you for today's show from PJ's on Airline and Metairie, the 2600 location. This is probably one of their best locations in the whole entire city. They have great drinks here. It's a brand new spot. It's beautiful. Come on out, enjoy a day, drink a coffee, get your day started right, or get a pick-me-up later in the day. And if you need a new car, make sure you check out our guy, Matt Bowers, at one of his many dealerships throughout the region. Great pricing, great customer care, great service, best car buying experience that you can find. So make sure you go and check out Matt today. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk about which players we think, if they reach their peak, would change our win total for the upcoming season. We'll get to that and so much more right after this short break. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. This Father's Day, show your dad you appreciate his unique style with the Breitling watch from Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Make sure you're ready for the day. Father's Day is June 16th. And if not, maybe you just want to treat yourself. Smash that presentation, nail that deal, achieve that goal. Get yourself a Breitling watch from Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, 7713 Maple Street, between Adams and Burdett, Uptown. 504-866-5433. Or visit them at friendandcompany.com. Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show. I'm Nick Unreal here at PJ's with Mike Triplett and Brandon Thomas, and it's now time for our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Father's Day is coming up, so make sure you take care of your dad or that special someone in your life by getting them a Breitling watch at Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. And while you're there, check out their fleur-de-lis necklace and earrings that you see on the screen. Necklace is priced at $1,350, and the earrings are $1,100. All right, let's get to it.
Which players would change the Saints' win total by living up to their ceiling? In our last overtime segment, a viewer popped into the chat and asked that great question. Who would change the ceiling? In particular, they asked about Chase Young. Like, would the win projections change if they live up to their ceiling? So, like you said, that's the lead topic. So, who would you pick, Mike?
Yeah, Chase Young's near the top of the list, but to me, it's a guy who we've talked about a lot. It's Trevor Penning. And it depends on what you mean by Trevor Penning's ceiling. But if we're talking about the ceiling, like first-round talent, a guy that was picked to not only be an adequate starter, dependable starter, but a special starter, first-round caliber. If you told me Trevor Penning was going to play like even Andrus Peat or better, I'd probably be much, much, much higher on this team. I don't know if I'd give him 2 extra wins, but I'd probably be picking him to win the NFC South if I felt like there was something good happening at left tackle instead of a like terrifying, unknown at left tackle.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody that I would have had on my list. I think the obvious number one here for me is Derek Carr. I think if Derek Carr lives up to his whole entire potential, they probably win more games than I would expect them to. And we saw, I think, probably something close to the peak of that potential late last season.
Yep.
If you get that for 17 games, I mean, I would probably feel very comfortable projecting 9 or 10 wins for the upcoming season if you take out those variances and the ups and downs. So if he were to hit it, I think that's a spot where I feel like it would make a very significant difference on the upcoming season.
Yeah, I have Derek Carr on my list, but I probably have him sort of in the middle of this list. This is so much to interpretation, and this is probably not fair to Derek Carr, but I feel like Derek Carr has settled into not an exactly we know what he is, but I'm thinking a little bit more about the like Chase Young, Trevor Penning. They could be great or they could be an absolute 0 for the team. I think Derek Carr is going to be a 7 for your team no matter what. Maybe he'll be an 8. That's the only reason why I would. But I agree, nobody's more important to the fate of this team than Derek Carr. And when he was playing at his best, what did they go down the stretch? 4-1 over the last 5 games. If you go 4-1 during every 5-game segment, then you're one of the best teams in football.
If Derek's a 7 though, and you get him to a 10, I think that really does make a high significant difference. I don't really have anybody else on my list. For me, it was Trevor Penning, Derek Carr, and Chase Young, and those are the only guys that I really feel like can change the season entirely. Like if Paulson Adebo plays, like you already know. I don't think that there's a realistic change in Cam Jordan, so that's not even one that I'm considering on my list. I just don't see anybody else where there's a massive difference. There's like a little bit of I had Kendra Miller on the fringe a little bit, but I don't know that Kendra
I have an obvious number 2.
changes the whole entire season.
I have an obvious number 2. It was Penning or Marshawn Lattimore, but that's more about Marshawn Lattimore playing than it is playing better. It means he's healthy, and it means he hasn't left the team.
This is a wild statement, but I don't know if Penning or Lattimore coming or going changes anything I think about the team, because they overcame it so easily last year. They plugged the guy in there. They have better players now. I'm probably discounting
Part of
them.
the equation of this conversation is, what are you left with if this player needs to be replaced? And you do feel better about their depth at cornerback than other positions, but still,
I'm sure it is at least a win difference, but I just don't. I don't know that I don't feel the panic around that situation maybe the way I did even pre-draft. But even pre-draft, it didn't feel like necessarily something that topples the whole entire season. And it's a testament to how well they schemed around it last year. And a lot of that is opponent, and a lot of that is probably false bravado, because they face so many backup quarterbacks and just so many guys on injuries and stuff like that. But they just kind of overcame that really well the last 2 years. And then you bring in Kool-Aid into the mix. And if they trade Lattimore, I don't know that it would make me be like, oh, their season's over, or they aren't going for the playoffs, or I would just kind of be like, all right, well, these guys need to stay healthy.
I'm thinking about this one in reverse a little bit. I'm at 8-9. We did our predictions the other night. Me and Brandon were both at 8-9. You were at 9-8. And I said, kind of feels like the same thing we've been seeing. The 3 years in a row now, they won 9, they won 7, they won 9. And I'm picking some guys that I almost consider, I'm not factoring them in. But if you told me, no, you're getting 17 games from Marshawn at Marshawn's peak, I'm like, oh, shoot, maybe that's a 10-win team.
That's fair.
I think they can continue to be what they've been without Marshawn. I think Marshawn makes them better.
I guess for me, we're probably in the same place. I feel stronger about the 9 I said with Marshawn than without, but I don't know that I drop it to 8 or I move it up to 10. I go from a maybe 9 to a strong 9. So it's probably about the same thing.
It's kind of how
it's kind
of how we felt about Michael Thomas the last couple of years. We're used to him not being a factor, but if he became a factor, boom. Oh, the best player on the team is playing. Great. B, we haven't heard from you yet.
I agree with you. I think if you could get Penning going and have him usable.
Oh, he's the biggest one on the list.
Yeah, if you could have Penning usable, then you move the needle completely. I wouldn't say 2 games. I could see why you were reaching towards that level, but I agree with the level where you dropped back down just to like a 1-game difference of, okay, Penning is usable. We have 5 usable offensive linemen. Throwing a 6th, you have a squad.
What is Penning? What is the perfect Penning?
What do you mean? What is the perfect Penning?
Like in this exercise, what is peak Penning?
Peak. Well, that's what I was saying about reaching their peak being the definition. To me, the hope for Penning, the realistic hope for Penning, is either Andres Peter, Cesar Ruiz. They looked like, oh, this was a wasted first-round pick. They're not going to be useful at all. To, okay, they're useful. They're actually helping this team. Like, that's realistic. But one step further than that is, oh, what if he's also way better than that? What if he's an actual first-round pick? So he's Pete or Cesar Ruiz, I add a win. If he's true for Tristan Wirfs, I had 2 wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. Coming in, but have we lowered the peak on Penning? I feel like sitting here last year talking about him, we probably would have been like, yeah, peak Penning is Tristan Wirfs. Like, is that even achievable at this point? Do we believe? Or has that kind of been the thing that's happened over the last few years? Like, peak Penning now is just kind of like Andres Pete is kind of.
Well, let's talk about one other name in this conversation that we haven't brought up yet, which is Peyton Turner, who I almost discounted from this, but I'm like, oh yeah, he's a first rounder too.
He should be
and I feel like Peyton Turner helps you if he's Tano Passanio. Like, just get him on the field and get him in the rotation. But what if he starts playing at the level that Carl Granderson played at last year? Or what if he starts playing at the level that Marcus Davenport played at when he's healthy? It's kind of the same conversation for those guys. What if they're actual first-rounders? Not only can they be on the team and get in the rotation, what if they're special? And I think we've probably eliminated the possibility in all of our minds that we're not even talking about that. We're not even talking about what if Peyton Turner is Carl Granderson. We're talking about what if Peyton Turner can get on the field.
Yeah.
But the fact that those guys are first rounders, it's that is sort of like the Chase Young conversation. Like, oh no, what if this guy is like the third best player on the team? With Chase Young, not just getting on the field, but being actually special.
I feel there's more possibility with Peyton Turner than with Trevor Penning, and it's probably because Peyton Turner's been injuries and Trevor Penning's like inability, is straight up inability. So I kind of feel like the ability for Peyton Turner, like if Peyton Turner matched Carl Granderson, I don't know that I would be shocked by it. At the same time, I'm with you. I don't expect it. We did this, didn't even enter my thought process that he could be somebody that could raise the bar on the team.
I mean, technically you could say that for Isaiah Foskey too, but
yeah, I mean Foskey's closer to, he has less warts on him. So I believe in Foskey a lot more than I do these other guys, just because there hasn't been repeated disappointments at this point. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I have much more faith in Peyton Turner being something than Trevor Penning, I think, for sure.
I had a few more names on my maybe list to talk about. I mean, Taliesin Fuaga, if he reaches his peak. I mean, sometimes a guy comes in right away as a rookie and plays like first rounder. If he's special, if he's that special, anyone on the offensive line. I have Nick Saldiveri on here too. Like any offensive lineman that like comes in and kills it, like I'm picking them to go 8 and 9 mostly because of my fears on the offensive line. So if you give me somebody really special on the offensive line, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about Clint Kubiak in this conversation. But
yeah, that's literally who I was going to go with, but I was like, nah, he's not a player. Yeah.
And then, I put Kendre and A.T. Perry on here. What if they hit it? I had Jordan Howden in here. I don't know that I'm hitting adding win totals for that, but I do have one more name. And I'm going to talk about this guy every time I can. Is Taysom Hill. If they figure out how to get the best out of Taysom Hill, I'd sure love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. But sticking with members-only content, Nick, you dropped a bomb on the website just detailing the boogeymen that the Saints have to go through this season. If you're not locked in, make sure you're locked in because you're missing out on stuff like that. Whether it's the pass rushers who give them a tough time because the offensive line is so weak, or mobile quarterbacks who the Saints have shown they can't contain yet. So who are the certified boogeymen that the Saints have to go about this year?
I'm not going to give away the whole list, but I mean, I think, going through it, one guy that I think, if you got to pick one guy, it's probably someone like Khalil Mack. I think it's probably like the one guy.
He's your one, huh?
I mean, he had 17 sacks last year, and you say there's no offensive lineman on the team. He's kind of probably the best pure pass rusher on the whole entire list. Like, there's probably better defensive ends. There's one on the screen right now. I think Miles is a better defensive end. Parsons is probably a better, all-around player. But Mack was like the preeminent pass rusher, like outside of T.J. Watt last year. So he kind of just wrecked games.
Yep.
So but it could be any one of these guys could lead the league in sacks. And there's Max Crosby as well. I mean, there's a handful of them, but I think
that did top your list. Spoiler alert on Nick's story. You started with the defensive the edge rushers for good reason. Yeah.
Like Mack is probably the guy though that I think just you come in with the speed rush that he could just take apart a team without a lot of great blocking options. That's kind of the guy that would probably scare me the most.
Yeah, I was going to pick Micah Parsons as my one guy, partly because he wins the tiebreaker against Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack, and others because they get him in week 2. The offense won't have found its identity yet. Whoever the starting offensive linemen are won't be in their groove yet. They're still learning Kubiak's new offense, and they get Micah Parsons in week 2. He's the one on my list. Let me hear yours real quick before I throw one more name.
I'm going to troll a little bit. I'm going to say that number 15, Zeke, that's a real boogeyman on the roster. But I think Myles Garrett towards the end of the season, his ability to just break through the offensive line like his toilet paper it's literally unmatched. So I think that's somebody that the Saints really do need to be scared of.
The only one is because you referenced it in your intro is the same reason we're going to find out what they can do against Micah Parsons in week 3. It's Jalen Hurts in Micah Parsons in week 2, Jalen Hurts in week 3. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the toughest quarterback on their schedule. We've got a picture of Pat Mahomes on the screen, but we're going to find out if this big nemesis that they've never been able to conquer, even in Dennis Allen's peak years, is something they have an answer for this year.
Yeah, there's some interior pass rushers too if they don't find good guard options. I think they're seeing some of the best on that list. There's some wide receivers. They play a ton of good tight ends. They were terrible covering tight ends last year. It's probably going to be a continuing trend. That's another thing they got to figure out. Some really good running backs. We go through, break it down position by position, tier by tier. That's on the website now. If you aren't signed up, make sure you sign up to get it.
The other thing you made note of in that post, though, is just even though for the second year in a row the numbers say they have one of the easier schedules in the league, the opponents they're facing much tougher than last year, I think.
Yeah, so do I. We're going to hit a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go through and see who we think still has gas left in the tank. And we're going to hit both of our Martin's questions of the day. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000.
Are you tired of renting and ready to own your dream home? Contact Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, your trusted source for home loans. Our competitive rates and flexible terms can help make your home ownership dreams a reality. If you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, our experienced lenders are here to help. Our online application process allows you to apply on your schedule. It's quick, easy, and convenient. Visit us online at jeffersonfinancial.org to learn more. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Welcome back to PJ's on 2600 Airline Drive. Our next segment is presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. One of the biggest reasons for pessimism this season is because the Saints, they're getting up there in age. You know, it's hard to say, but some of the top players are getting up there in age. Michael Thomas is already gone. We don't expect to see Ryan Ramczyk this year. But which players over the age of 29 are you most confident in that they still have some gas left into the tank?
All right, so we got DeMario and Cam will be 35. Taysom will be 34. This is in week 1. Tyron 32. Alvin 29, but in running back years, he fits with the others. Yeah. Of this list, the weirdest thing is DeMario's the oldest one. He's almost the one I'm most confident in, but I think I'll pick Alvin. I always think he's going to get himself in the right frame of mind, and the thing we're most optimistic about with this team is that they found the right combination of offensive line coaches, run scheme, run game, innovation to hopefully bring out Alvin's strengths. If I was going to pick one guy on this list to have a better year in 2025 than they had in 2024, Alvin's the one for me.
For me, I'd probably go Tyron, number 1 here. And then number 2, I'd probably go DeMario. Number 3, I think I'd probably go Taysom. Then I'd probably have Alvin 4th and Cam 5th. I think that's probably how I'd see my list coming together. I think Tyron and DeMario, they take great care of their bodies.
Yeah, for sure.
You can even flip-flop them. I mean, either one or two or one, it doesn't matter. I think they're the top two. Taysom's just a force, and it's just I don't think you're going to see athletic drop off. I think at some point Taysom's going to get hurt and then just not come back and be the same. But I don't know. I don't know that I'm expecting to see him there's just not a lot of mileage there. I think he can kind of keep going at the pace until he can't. I just don't see the deterioration there. And having Alvin here fourth isn't necessarily. It's just kind of more about the other people more so than him. But I think that we already see him kind of looking a little bit different. I just don't think. I don't think there's the same burst.
There's no shame in that too.
But if you block and get him into the second level a little bit better, I think they could make better use of him within the scheme. There was a lot of contact before he got out into the open field. His yards before initial contact was the lowest of his career last year, and a lot of that's due to the blocking. Now some of that's also the same. But he's still breaking tackles and everything. I don't think you see his leg burst really look significantly different. So I think he's still got a lot there. I mean, but just as far as the other ones, I just you're talking about a running back here. So you're asking me to place a bet on guys at this point. It's you just kind of got to tier them based on what you see in historical evidence. And then, I think Cam just kind of is what he is at this point.
Yeah, look, there's no shame in that with Alvin. I mean, if you bet on every running back bet against every running back who's ever turned 29, you've won 19 out of 20 bets. He has to be an exception to the rule to not, he's going into year 8 now. That running backs don't have the same burst that long. The reason I picked him, though, is he's the one guy I think could potentially have a better year. But if I'm just saying who am I most confident won't drop off, weirdly 35-year-old DeMario and Tyron would probably be the two guys that I don't expect to see drop off anymore. I trust them to be able to maintain.
Yeah, I mean, drop off's an interesting word here too, because Alvin could have physical drop off and have an improvement in statistical production.
Correct.
Because I think it was just some of the stuff was so poorly blocked, and the way they schemed the run game, and you add in coaches that what we believe is that's their calling card. We believe that they build the run game better. We believe they use play action more effectively. We believe they're going to have a more cohesive, just offensive scheme in general, more cohesive identity, call plays a little bit better, not go to these unadvantageous situations. So I think there's a reality where regardless of Alvin's physical ability or whatever, that he averages more than 3.9 yards per carry.
Right.
So the word drop off here, I think defining it that way, I think your choice here is a great one. I think he very easily could be at the top of this list. If we're just talking physical stuff, that's probably where I slot him probably fourth.
That's totally fair.
Yeah, I mean,
totally
there's
fair.
two things working here. So I think it's an extremely valid choice to have him at the top of the list.
Alvin's at third on my list for a lot of the reasons that you stated, but also if Kendre Miller can step up and take some of that mileage off of Alvin and Taysom, they can easily be able to be more, have more bursts, be more effective, different things like that. The line needs to work. But my first two are DeMario and Tyron in that order because I was able to see the amount of work that DeMario puts into his body during the season to help preserve himself. And Tyron, he's been able to do this for a while, and he's already had to overcome some injuries back in his past stops. And I think now he's at a space where he doesn't have to be the hard-hitting guy. He can just be, stepping back and from afar, evaluate the field, and be able to make plays and preserve himself. And Cam, you see where that's at. You see where that's at. What you think? What you got?
I think Cam can be better than he was last year.
Oh no, most definitely, most definitely. But you see what kind of direction he's going.
There comes a time in every athlete where they just aren't what they used to be anymore. But I'm wondering if they can find some solutions for Cam. I think his pride is going to be a factor in this too. I keep wondering, is that ever going to happen with DeMario Davis where, gosh, he's just not what he used to be anymore. But I wonder if Cam has one more surge left in him. I think that would help. He was on my long list of people that what if he reached his peak? What if Cam goes back to looking like he looked like a couple years ago? I don't know if it's possible or not.
If he can make high-impact plays and doesn't have to play every play, then that'll kind of balance itself out. Oh, he comes in. He's like, the old samurai or ninja or something like that. He comes in, opens his sword once, makes a couple slices, closes it back, and then walks back to the valley. He's done what he's needed to do.
That was a visual.
I mean, I'll just say that the coaching staff talks about him as if he's not going to be a significant factor in the pass rush. And, I mean, that's just kind of where I'm rolling with it. But they say it. That's where I'm kind of rolling with it. I mean, We'll see. I mean, I think he can be better. He was hurt last year, so there probably will be some production increase this year. But I think realistically that, he is a 35-year-old pass rusher in the NFL. I mean, we know what that is at that point. It's not.
Yeah.
That's not and he wasn't supposed to be in a position where he was supposed to be carrying the weight. Like, he shouldn't be. He should be in a position where he can kind of be in you come in certain spots, you make your plays. You're playing 60% of the snaps, and the Young Bucks are kind of doing the bulk of the work, and you're kind of in positions where you can shine. They haven't done a good enough job building that structure around him. He shouldn't be in a position where you're looking at him like, can he be the main contributing factor of this? But unfortunately, their drafting and their development at that position has put him in a role where there's a lot on him. But I do think Cam being healthy, if he stays healthy for 17 games, I think obviously he plays better. On the other hand, he's an older player, and injuries and stuff start to become a more frequent part of it at that point. So even betting on health, I don't know that you can just look at that as a blip or if it's something. Regardless, I think he can play better than he did last season. But, I mean, the other guys, I'm kind of expecting more overall contributions from him.
Yeah,
totally fair.
Other notable names on the list, we have Derek Carr, he's 33. Nathan Shepard, he's 30, and Jamal Williams is going to be 29. Do you think out of those names somebody will –
yeah, I mean, it's just worth mentioning that Carr is 33, but I don't think we worry about the age of a 33-year-old at that position as much either. But, I mean – a
33-year-old quarterback is like 25 at that position now.
But it's just noting why he's not on this list.
Out of those three, I mean, I think Nathan Shepard will probably have the most production, the best season. I mean, Derek Carr obviously aside, but I mean, between Jamal Williams and Nathan Shepard, I expect things from Shepard, and I'm not sure what to expect from Williams.
Yeah, Williams is just to see his career go to the not graveyard, because he still is a contributor on those downs outside of touchdowns, but he led the league in touchdowns 2 years ago, and that's really wild to see that he only has one from last year, and that was on a fluke.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with that is that the Saints kind of ended up paying him for that season, and then the rest of his career is kind of not that dissimilar from 2023 a little bit. I mean, he's down a little bit. The yards per carry were definitely down.
Oh, that's not true.
But, I mean, he was a 500-yard guy.
Right.
A 500-yard guy.
But he was catching 35 passes, too. That wasn't any part of his game last year. Like, I think they paid for he was getting 750 yards from scrimmage, 700 yards from scrimmage. I think that's what they paid for it. They didn't get it, though. That's for sure.
Nah, they definitely didn't get an ROI on that. But now it's time for our Martin's questions of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Our first question comes from Bree23. They ask, could the Saints be looking to add another wide receiver?
I mean, I think the ship sailed on it probably. I mean,
I saw that report. I think it was Jordan Schultz said they were one of the teams interested in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and my guess is
a few years ago they were. Yeah.
Well, no, he said that when he signed with the Bills the other day that the Bills beat out a couple other teams that showed interest, including the Saints, and that's why the question came in. But my guess, without knowing for sure, my guess is sure maybe they placed a call and they wanted to know what's the price on him currently, and it was probably a little higher than they wanted to. I'm sure they're still making calls. I keep thinking that by the time we get to July, if Hunter Renfrow still hasn't paid anywhere, his buddy Derek Carr, they're so close. He's had his best year with him that maybe they'll be like, hey, we'll do the vet minimum deal to try to resurrect his career here. I think that's still possible with that level of receiver that is still out there now. But I think it's pretty evident they're not going to pay for it.
Yeah, they aren't going to go out and spend money on that. I mean, if they can get someone, sure, but I don't even think it's like a high priority at this point.
Right.
Like, it's just kind of if the right opportunity exists, and I think that's probably the case for any position now. But as far as going out and like trying to make a move, big move, a splash, I don't see it.
Cedric Wilson was their pick. I mean, I don't think they're paying someone more. And then they also brought in Equanimeous St. Brown, who's a bigger guy, and he was super cheap. But yeah, I mean, I think Cedric Wilson was there. This is the one guy we're going to pay more than the minimum for.
Yeah. The next question is from Joe. He asks, what is the biggest part of Jordan Howden's game that needs to improve this season?
Consistency, I really think, is just really the main thing with him. Is there were too many ups and downs. Like you saw the ups and you saw really good things, and then there'd be dips and they'd take him off the field. So I think if he just gets more consistent, there'll probably be more confidence in him. He can settle in. He can do more things and get more snaps and kind of grow into that. But I think it's just not being a rookie. I mean, I really think that's all it is for him at this point.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's so funny how forgiving fans can be so much more forgiving about people who have highs and lows. The coaching staff was not forgiving. Like, Dennis Allen was harder, I think, on Jordan Howden than almost anyone I've heard him be last year. It just shows in the tape. Like, he was probably out of place on a lot of those long runs. Just things we don't know for sure. He's probably out of place on things where he wasn't getting the blame visually if you're just watching the game, but they know. And he really lost his job to Jonathan Abram late last season. So even though we keep penciling him in as the guy who's going to start because they got rid of Marcus May, and I think that will be the natural next step in his progression, he had kind of lost his grip on that starting job at the end of last season. So he has a lot of consistency is probably the right word, but he has to prove he's on top of things for sure.
My answer is a combination of both of your answers. Actually, my first point was going to be maturity. He doesn't have the reps to be able to go out there and make instinctive plays that you find out over time. And then on top of that, he was just playing. He didn't know where he was playing in particular. He didn't, he had to be coached, and he's at a malleable point in his career where the coaches can kind of mold him and put him where they feel like he needs to be. So I think, with this summer, knowing that you have a chance to be the starter long term, that, he'll be able to make some leaps. Yeah.
It was a great start, though, especially for a fifth rounder.
Yep. Well, for our live viewers, we hope that y'all stick around for overtime. And for people who aren't signed up to the website yet, you're missing out on articles like the Nick Boogeyman breakdown, and you're going to miss out on overtime. We appreciate y'all for stopping in. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Check you next time.